meaningful participation. Like really, how often does the Secretary General ask for consultation from civil society? So this is a privilege and definitely an opportunity for us. So Sun Young and I will go back just to explain the format. Sun Young and I will go back and forth with questions, answers. She has the answers, I have the questions, and at the end we'll open the floor for comments or questions, and wrap it up. It should be just very informal. We're just having a dialogue just to inform everyone. So Sun Yang, over to you.
Very good. So why are we here? I just wanted to clarify. We are here because you all are invited to participate in the Secretary General's consultation, which is called We the People. And We the People is a consultation that really began last year during UN 75. I understand its goal and its purpose was to create so-called bold proposals to strengthen international cooperation around the political declaration that was adopted by the General Assembly during its 75th anniversary. And not all of us are necessarily well acquainted with the political declaration. And so I just wanted to kind of throw that in front of us. I think I've got it here on the screen. No, that's not it. Hold on just a minute, I'll get it to us. Throw it on the screen and kind of review a little bit what its main tenets were. Let me see if I can find it. Sorry. Right. Okay. So it's here, I believe. Here. Can you all see this? Cheryl, can you?
Yes, I can see it.
It's perfect.
Great.
Yes, we can see.
Okay. All right. Great. So if we look at what that declaration was, on the 75th anniversary, we have a number of parts of it. There were 12 main commitments, and I'm not going to go into them in detail, but I did want to read them for us. We will leave no one behind, and that has particular attention to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and human rights treaties. So under that mandate, the government's pledge to leave no one behind. We will protect our planet. That refers not only to the Paris Agreement, but also to all of those many provisions under the 2030 Agenda. We will promote peace and prevent conflicts, and that is about the original origin, of course, of the UN. And I think it's myself in our history, in the IAW history, that we were rooted very much into the suffrage movement and the peace movement that helped create the UN. International law and ensure justice. This is about the threats of democracy and shrinking space. So I think that's very relevant for us. Here's the one on placing women and girls at the center. It's number 11. And I would invite all of us to read that carefully because it does make women and girls at the center of peace building. It's women and girls in the center of achieving all goals that we have in development. And I think that is an important narrative, an important argument that we can build on. We will build trust. The problem of corruption is something that the General Assembly will address this year in a special session. And marginalization, discrimination as a threat to building trust, not only at the UN, of course, but in governments. Digital cooperation, we're all very aware of the digital divide, not only among women, but within women's groups, many other different groups. We will upgrade the UN. In this concept, it is really about trying to figure out more ways to be effective and agile and responsive to the global challenges quickly with the whole of UN, not just bits and parts. We will ensure sustaining financing, boost partnerships, working with youth. Of course, that's something that the Generation Equality Forum will do. And this last one, we will be prepared, is about the pandemic recovery and about preparing for the next crisis. So I think that's extremely interesting and important. So with those various commitments that were made by governments, Secretary General invited this consultation. And last year, we were not necessarily a part of that, but it was run by his office and it engaged some 1.5 million people, 65,000 organizations, and it was about outreach. It was about engaging as many people as possible around the world into a virtual consultation, in real life consultation. And that was collected by a group of experts in his office and put together. So that's sort of the intro sentence on what that is. Cheryl, do you have another question?
Oh, I do. And thank you so much for that introduction, Sun Young, because it really frames for us what the Secretary General is expecting us to focus on when we do input and feedback to through this process. Why should IAW members get involved in this?
Yeah, okay, well, in fact, what I think is really interesting is that I see among my various organizations that I'm affiliated with a really special strength of IAW. I have noticed that there is a very rich and diverse expertise in this organization. Expertise in the sense that when we make an argument and we put something in writing for the UN, we substantiate that with data. I've noticed that. We produce documents, we produce studies, and that is exactly why we are invited at this stage to be a partner organization for this process. We were not everyone was asked. Let's put it that way. We join about 300 other organizations around the world, think tanks, individual experts who have written books on the UN, and a handful of women's organizations and others covering a wide range of issues to contribute two things. One is we have these working groups which have actually developed expertise in areas, and we can strengthen them in a way by consulting with them and then sharing those recommendations in this platform. And the second thing is the SG is looking for organizations that have developed broad processes leading to consultative statements. And I don't know that we've done so much of that, but we have produced and contributed ourselves individually and collectively in things like the Women's Major Group. Some of you may be involved in the Generation Equality Forum ideas and taken a look at the action coalitions and whatever it is that has been a consultative process, bringing the voices of a collective voice into this is something that they're looking for. Particularly the focus is on the how. So we have a number of challenges. We have those 12 commitments. How are they going to get done for women? And this is what we are there to contribute, I think.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And two key points that I take there is the individual engagement and the collective engagement as an organization. Yeah. So we have both platforms that we're able to use as an engagement process. So absolutely opens up the possibilities for us. Where can we learn more about this, Sun Young?
Okay, so I did want to mention one partner that is very important in this process. So if you don't mind, I'll screen share one more time before we go into that. This is the group that I very likely, in a way, in my personal capacity, will be a member of this steering committee, which is called the Coalition for the UN We Need. We have been a kind of civil society counterpart to that UN 75 process. And so I wanted to invite you here because we have actually also had a UN 75 People's Declaration. And in that People's Declaration, you will see that we asked for three things. We asked for a civil society envoy to be appointed to the Secretary General's office. And that has now evolved into the idea of a civil society champion. And why? Because of our very clear seeing of civil society space shrinking at the UN. So we would have someone designated in the SG's office that would be responsible to us and accountable to us about the issue of shrinking civil society space, diversity of civil society voices. The second ask is really about a people's parliament around the UN that is somehow democratically elected and which is then the voice of social movements at the UN. And that is one of the proposals. And the third is a campaign to ensure financing for the UN. So those are some of the things in the UN People's Declaration that you won't necessarily see in the government delegation. So I wanted to show that to you. Then I also wanted to show you this, which is the official site of UN 75. And here is where you will go when you want to make a contribution. Can I just keep this on the screen while we continue our discussion?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I like the backdrop. So thank you. Are you continuing?
No, keep going with.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I like the fact that we're able to access the UN 75 People's Declaration, where members can go and read in more detail exactly what that says. And I know that there's real concern about the shrinking space for civil society at the UN. So this is an important topic for us all to pay attention to. Who's going to see these recommendations, Soon Young? Or what, let's start with what kinds of recommendations would we need here?
Yeah, exactly. So if we look at this page, you will go there and then you will see a way in which you can make a contribution. I'm not sure I can see it exactly from here.
It's already in that link in the letter that we sent out. So for anybody who is struggling with finding the link, it is in the letter cover invitation letter that we sent out. So you can easily click on that and that will take you to where you
Yeah, thank you. I won't screen share that here, but do go there. And what kind of recommendations do we need? I'll explain it one more time, maybe in a slightly different way, that what we need now are those things which are measurable in some ways and for which we can guide the UN and member states on how they can approach this from our point of view and what is good for us. So it is the reiteration is the word how. How are we going to do this? And how do you prioritize what to do among the many things we need done? And what can be done realistically given the financial crises which many of the member states are going through? We're already seeing cutbacks in funding for social protection, which is all it's the wrong direction for protection. And so there are some areas which were flagged to us on an update yesterday with the coordinating organization that we can have particular contributions on. One of them that they need more contribution on is on the climate justice issue. So let's think about how we can contribute there. The second one is peace and security. The gender, peace and security perspectives, the things that some of us are involved in with the Global Compact on peace and security, all of that is extremely important. The other interesting gap is economics. So we have put so much effort, and I remember seeing statements and panels on unpaid care work, on the whole issue of inequality and poverty that we are going to be facing. So some of those recommendations would be very welcome.
Mhm. Excellent. And the key piece there, we do know that the end result is for the Secretary General to have a report on his desk for him to have the information at the ready. Along the way, though, who sees this information? Like, how does it get processed?
Absolutely. So several things there. One is that our civil society process, which we are joining, is one stream. So as Secretary General also has another stream with member states. How are we going to fund this? How are we going to get this done? And another stream within the UN. And when you go to this site, you should be able to see all of those recommendations from all the other streams. And you'll be able to vote on them. So when you go to this site, imagine that you go there at least 5 times, because you can go there for your own recommendations, and you can make recommendations in many different places. You don't have to make them just in one spot. You'll be invited, because it's very interactive, to go back and vote on some of these. And I have one issue I'd love to have you vote on.
What's that? Tell us.
Remember, we shared a concept paper. This was launched by Dubravka Simonovic, who's the Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Women, who brought this up at a meeting of our, I now sit on the President of the General Assembly's gender panel. She brought this up, and it was such an important point. We must bring gender-based violence, violence against women, women, peace, and security as a standing agenda item at the CSW. We must bring it into any discussion on gender equality and women's empowerment, not economics or sexual reproductive health and rights, whatever it is. If we can get this into the working method of the CSW, if we can get this into the ear of the Secretary General, it has a chance of happening. And it has a chance of actually making a breakthrough on this issue. So I would invite you, because that is now on the site, I would invite you to vote for it.
Very good. It's
Okay.
good to.
And to answer your other question, we asked, in fact, the question of the Institute, which is coordinating. What he's done is he's asked a civil society institute, IGAPI Institute, which is also in your letter, to be the organizer for him, not his office. So that is the institute which brought us together. There were like 15 of us yesterday talking about how this process is going to go through. And so it is a civil society led, in some ways, process, but it is going to be synthesized by this expert group and presented to him in 2 kinds of reports. One report will be the kind of, these were the top 20 important recommendations that came through. The other report will be more a synthesis of pretty much everything that was there, so that it would be inclusive. And this is going to be then presented in the Secretary General's report to the General Assembly.
Excellent. I think we understand how we can contribute. Can you tell us the deadline on this? Like, how fast do we have to move? How much time do we have?
Oh, that's the problem. May 21st. May 21st. So right after we get off this call, get in there if you can and start thinking about what you want to say there. One thing I brought up yesterday at our meeting was that with this level of expertise, we also need to have the ability to attach documents. And at the moment, the interface doesn't allow that. So I want to invite you to send me any documents that you want to support a particular area, and I'll forward them to Natalie, who is kind of organizing this. But you also have an email in that letter, that wonderful letter that Cheryl sent out, I sent out, which says there's another email there that you can send things to. So please do that as well.
Fantastic. That's good to know. So everyone on this call, remember that our timeline is very short, so we have to act now. And as you share this information with your networks, please stress the time limitation that within which we're working. Soon Young, you have some questions for us, some poll questions. You want to take the pulse in terms of the recommendations for the People's Declaration.
Do I have questions for you?
If you don't have questions
I
for
don't.
us,
I was thinking that maybe our members had.
I'm going to open the floor then.
Great.
So,
Wait,
uh,
you could open up for questions, and then Cheryl, you can moderate.
all right, fantastic. So if you would just raise your hand, see at the bottom where it has reactions. If you raise your hand, I will see you, and then I will manage the speakers list. Sun Yang, it looks like your explanations were very clear because we have no questions. Any comments then?
That's wonderful. There is one hand up. I don't know who that is. Oh, Sybil. Do you see Sybil's hand?
Go ahead, Sybil. You have the floor.
I was mistaken.
Okay.
I wouldn't raise my hand.
All right. Oh, I see Sandra's hand. Go ahead, Sandra.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sue Young. So my question is, if there were to be submissions, are we, Cheryl too, are we to send them directly to Sue Young, or is this going to be a collective response from IAW?
At this point, because time is very short, I would discourage something that attempts to be a collective response. I would draw on the experience we already have and that all of you have in your various NGO world and your expertise. So this is individual and collective. So you can choose, I think, at this point.
Mhm.
Don't you
And
think?
I
Don't you
would
think?
say, Sandy, you know, for example, if Ontario Council CFUW has something they'd like to submit, go ahead and submit. If you have documents that you'd like to upload, that's what Sun Yang was saying, because the tool doesn't really facilitate that. You can send the document to her and she'll make sure it gets to the right person, but make your submission, go right ahead, because we don't have the time to do a full-scale coordinated organizational submission.
And also there is on the letter, which we will resend. Don't you think, Cheryl? We can resend.
I think so.
And this
Yep.
is a recording as well. So we'll send a link to this recording of this briefing and the letter again. And there is a link, an email address that goes directly to where you want it to go. So you could send the documents there. I see Natalia has just joined us as well. So
Welcome, Natalia. Excellent. Any last comments? Questions? Don't be shy. This is why we're here, to make sure that we know what our next steps are and we do understand the process.
Helen's iPhone has her hand up.
Okay, go ahead. I didn't see that. Go ahead, please. And then Joanna is after that. Helen, go ahead, Helen.
Hi to everyone. Hope you are well and safe. I was late to join the meeting and I wanted to just confirm with Sue Young. As you all know, in Cyprus, we face a lot of conflict problems with Turkey, and we make a lot of trials for women to participate in negotiations tables. I just want to confirm and be sure how I will prepare the recommendation and send it, just write down my thoughts and what is happening here and send it to Sun Yang, because it's the first time that I'm doing that.
shall I answer? Helen.
Yeah. And my name is Ellie, actually. Actually, I'm Ellie Christodoulou,
Right.
but in my iPhone.
That's okay.
it's,
All right. So quite frankly, this is the first time for everybody. It's the first time
Yeah.
I went and did it. So again, we'll send the letter out again that gives the link to the actual place to register for all of this. You should,
All right.
you should put all of your ideas directly into that process, and it will be
All right.
seen very quickly by others. They are looking for recommendations, this idea of getting more women in peace and security. If you have some lessons learned from what your experience is, I think that's the sort of thing they would be looking for. Because,
Okay.
you know, what is it that you could say that would make it more successful for other countries? That would be so useful.
All right. All right. I will try, and if I need help, I will ask your help, Sun Young. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ellie. Thank you, Sun Young. Joanna, you have the floor. We can't hear you, Joanna. You need to open your mic.
Is it okay now?
Now you're good.
Yeah. Okay. I was listening to these very beautiful ideas and plans for the future. I was wondering in what way we can motivate politicians and governments and other stakeholders to do all that. Is the tool of accountability considered as a way to do so? I'm asking myself, it may be not, you see? Because
So we heard the first part, but we can't hear what you're saying right now. So just to reiterate the question, you're looking for some the perspective on what the accountability, government accountability is, and how civil society can ensure that there is accountability at the government level. Is that what you're asking? I can't hear you. Your mic is closed. Now we can
pass
hear
from
you.
commitment to accomplishment.
Yes. Okay.
Because
Excellent question,
you may say,
Joanna.
I commit to do this and this. And then what happens? If you know that there is no one to ask you, what did you do? Then, okay, I mean, beautiful words. That is one problem with multilateralism that is very important to me, especially women consider that it's very important, but it's not democratic for the time being. This is my view. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Joanna. Sun Yang, do you have a response for that? And I sense that others on the panel may have a response to Joanna in terms of encouragement and strategies for moving forward with that particular point.
Well, not particularly. I'm thinking maybe we would give others a chance to all speak.
Yep.
And we have.
I like that because I know this is a panel of experts who might have ideas. I don't see any other hands.
Lida has a hand.
Yes.
Lida, go ahead, please.
Blending into the wall, so hard to see.
A few years ago, I think it was when the CSW was about violence against women, I made a 10-point plan for a society with less violence against women. It's just one page. And I wonder if I would send that because you think it's important and it's in ordinary language.
I would encourage you to, again, even if you have to copy and paste, to put it directly into the system, because I'm not able to do that for you. And
Okay.
then if you want to send the complete document, as I say, there is an email where you can send it directly.
Yes.
In that letter. that would be the best.
Great.
Excellent. Important to use the tool that has been established to receive the feedback, and then we can send attachments later just as a backup. Any other comments?
Cheryl, I
Yes,
see
this is
Roshan.
Emily.
I see 3 hands. I see Roshan, Emily, and Charmaine. Do you see those?
All right, we'll go in that order. Roshan, Emily, and then Charmaine. Roshan, you have the floor.
Yes, I am ready. Yes. First of all,
A very good evening and good morning to all of you. Nice to see you all. And conducting this beautiful discussion and this beautiful meeting about the issues which women are being confronted with throughout the globe. And so far as the UN is concerned, how UN is concerned about women's lives around the globe, I think there are multiple issues. But at this juncture, I think I would be touching only few issues which are of very relevant, very vital importance. Like, let us talk about women and peace. I think when we talk about women and peace, women are hardly being given a chance to discuss peace, because wars are always, these are being discussed and decided by men, and the consequences are to be borne by women. And how long and how many times we have seen in our history or in our own lifetime that women have been consulted for any peace talk, number one. And then I may come to another vital issue when we talk about this care work. And when we talk about care work, we see throughout the world all the women who are doing multiple chores, performing multiple chores at home, despite being working outside also. They are doing the double work, they are sharing the triple workload. But how UN is just going to formulate such strategies so that they can lessen the burden and make it mandatory upon the member nations, upon the member countries, the governments who are a treaty to this to that convention, that once we are working to implement any of the provisions of any world conferences or any conventions or even Beijing platform for action, we see that we move ahead. We are no doubt we are thinking about how to make the women's lives better. But I think as an academician, as a researcher, what I find is that we don't find that we are implementing these agendas later, and these agendas remain unfulfilled. And therefore, this is the nice opportunity, as we are having our a good representative from UN, and we hope that she can just guide us better and how we can reduce this conflict, burden of violence, burden of work overload upon women. And we need to give women a role in decision making, a role in policy formulation and implementation also. Because once we formulate the strategies, we formulate the policies, but later the implementation part that remains there. Thank you.
Very significant points there that you've made for us, Roshan. I'm going to go over to Emily and then Charmaine after, and maybe we can summarize after that. Emily, over to you.
Yes, I just had one suggestion that when people do make submissions, to forward a copy to IAW so that IAW can at least have kind of a collection of what was submitted by its members. And Cheryl can decide which email to use that people send a copy of their submission.
Yeah, that's an excellent idea, so that we do, we can, have a record of the submissions and use that for future work in terms of creating statements. Excellent idea. Charmaine? Charmaine, the mic is yours. I know Charmaine was experiencing technical difficulties on and off, so we may have lost her.
No. Can you hear me?
Go ahead. Yes, we can.
Yeah, hi. Lovely to see everyone. And we're talking about a very, the most important agenda in a woman's life. We signed the CEDAW, I think about, 30 years ago now? But I would just like to suggest a mechanism that if somehow we could monitor whether the, whether the clauses are not being followed, or women are subject to dire violence. And if the government states, I don't know, I mean, I'm just asking as a member of IAW. I don't know if that could happen, but I'm sure somehow it can. The UN Women, this is for the General Secretary and the Rapporteur, a very worthy lady. So can we have such a mechanism? That's what I wanted to just bring to everyone's
Excellent
attention.
question. So I just want to, before we sort of summarize all three speakers, I just want to point out that based on Emily's recommendation, it's an excellent one to have a record of the submissions. If you wouldn't mind, we'll send out the email when we resend the letter with all of the contact information. If you wouldn't mind, send in a copy to the Assistant Secretary General, Miranda Rosario, and she will just compile all of that in one document so that it is a record. And I haven't asked Miranda yet, but I'm sure she'll say yes. And I beg forgiveness if she's already overwhelmed, but we will try to keep a record of that and have it so that we can reference it later on. Roshan, excellent point in terms of care responsibility, the lack of female women representation in positions of leadership in society, and also making sure that that continues to be part of the conversation that takes place and that comes to the attention of the Secretary General. I know in the town hall session that he held at UNCSW 65, he was very favorable to the questions that we posed. So I sense an open heart and open spirit in terms of receiving feedback and input, and a genuine desire to hear what civil society has to say. So really, this is our opportunity to feed via the tool that is presented now, make sure that those comments and thoughts and positions and suggestions are recorded and documented for the Secretary General's benefit and for his office to be able to work with. So that is probably our closing statement in terms of make sure you use the tool, feed into the conversation with your words and your concerns. And these are concerns that you are bringing forward on behalf of your organizations and the work that you have been doing for years. So we know that you will follow up. We know that it takes a little bit of effort to follow through, but we are very confident that you're going to take this opportunity and that whatever you submit, that you will send a copy to the email that we'll provide for IAW record keeping. Are there any final questions, final words? Because I think we have covered all of the items that we wanted to cover. And Soon Young, I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to walk us through this process and for really elaborating on how we can best engage. And so making sure that we are prepared and ready to move forward with our next steps.
Cheryl, can I just say something? I think if we have 2 minutes, Marion has her hand up, and I remember in an exchange, we thought that if we had a few extra minutes since we're all together, burning announcements, things related. So I'm not sure you saw Marion's hand there.
I did not see Marion's hand, and I remember at the top of the meeting, you said Marion had some really burning information to share with us. So Marion, the meeting, our meeting as we agended is over, and now we're turning it over to Marion for her information that she'd like to share. Marion, the mic is yours.
Okay, but before I want to give an answer to Charmaine's question or even recommendation, because a new mechanism to maybe monitor from the CEDAW results, all reports, state, NGOs, the concluding comments, open questions which are not even framed in CEDAW already because not having been submitted, we can suggest this by talking to the CEDAW committee and recommend that they open a new floor for new general recommendation, which is not just mentioning like femicide or something like this, but also developing, which they not have really, monitoring mechanism, which defines some indicators, which defines slots of time when people can bring forward, etc., etc. So if somebody wants to work with me with this, we can do this. This is very easy because CEDAW is very open for this kind of suggestions. It might not be proposed this year, but you know, there's a time hold because of the COVID with the sessions, but we can do this. And my information is that being under pressure because of the withdrawal from the Istanbul Convention by Turkey, by probably many other countries not stepping in, by the anti-gender movement, which tries to turn us apart from the LGBTI movement. They want to divide human rights between women and girls, real biological women and girls and others. So there is a lot of force upon us in the European Women's Lobby, in Europe, in the world, by a kind of, it's a huge network of governments, authoritarian leaders of private sector who are even putting a lot of money into different regions for this anti-gender movement. And now we have also so-called feminists who operate with this. To counteract this, there will be the next days a lot of events on Istanbul Convention. So on the 11th, there's a German conference. I submitted already this information to you. I can repeat it. On the 11th, there's a conference of the Council of Europe the whole day. You can't speak, but you can see the live stream. It also starts a campaign. And on the 12th, on the 11th, there's another campaign opening, launching by a global alliance of NGOs, mainly from Turkey, but also Europe, Asia, and other regions. I'm missing a little bit the African region in this new alliance for Istanbul Convention, but we will be part of it as IAW. And I will forward you this information, and you can start small, sharing hashtags, but also seeing the platform and contribute. We want to frame it in a positive way. It should be first of all, advocacy, but on the other hand, awareness raising, information on Istanbul Convention, but also solidarity. And we want, maybe I can ask Cheryl directly once more. Canada could join the Istanbul Convention. Other countries can because it's the Council of Europe's convention, but it is open to every state which might ratify. So it gives in detail more details on protection of women and girls of all kinds from violence against women, as the CEDAW does. You know, the CEDAW had this lack in Article 5, speaking very shortly or being interpreted as this is the article and the general recommendations. So I will forward this information, I think, beginning of the week, if not tomorrow, to you. And I hope we can also, be a very lively part of this new coalition.
Thank you so much, Marian. That was very important news for us to have information with regards to the start of the campaign. And I know that IAW will be using its social media platform to get that information out there. In the chat box, I've put the Assistant Secretary General's email address for you to include her in your submission, just to let her know what you've submitted so that we can keep a record of that. And unless we have—
Cheryl, do you see Natalia's hand?
Oh, no, I don't. You know what, my screen, I keep going back and forth. I should go gallery. That way I can see everyone. I'm so sorry, Natalia.
I'm your helper here.
The mic is yours.
Thank you, Cheryl, and thank you, Soo-Young. I think it's very important for us to join our efforts together and contribute to this very important initiative. And also to showcase IAW, but we have a lot of expertise, and I think we can leverage that to have a strong voice here. So that's very important. I'll definitely be contributing on climate justice and women and climate change. And I'll also probably gain some feedback from you on that contribution so that it can be sort of all inclusive all on our different issues within the commission. Because in our previous meeting, we were just talking about how we're going to prepare for this next CSW, and we're going to sort of refocus a lot of the work that the commissions are doing on women, climate change, and then health or peace or the different commissions subjects within IAW, so we can get more detailed sort of expertise and preparations. Again, thank you for this presentation. I look forward to be part of this.
Yes, thank you. And thanks for that note, Allison. Any other hands? Last comments? Well, I think this is the most efficient meeting I've ever moderated. Congrats to everyone.
You can blame it on yourself.
Congrats to everyone for your participation and for being here today. We really appreciate you. You know where, hi Rosie, I've just seen you now. You know where to find us, and please follow. We will send out that letter with all the information again, so it's at the ready. We'll send that out on Monday, but in the meantime, you can search your inbox and find it. We're just not able to get to it technically to get it to you today, but we will resend to all just to remind everyone of the opportunities. So we look forward to those submissions on behalf of your organizations, IAW as a whole, and you individually. All right, thanks everyone.